Hey, how's it going, everybody? I want to talk to you guys about Ram Eco Diesel specifically. So Eco Diesels came out for the Ram about 2013 to current. They all have this problem. It's a major issue. You need to take care to make sure that this is addressed, right? So the tools that you guys are going to need are these here. The magnets are nice if you drop a bolt. Very minimal amount of tools. You're going to need, this is a T40 Torx bit, and that's going to be for the map sensor. You're going to need a 10 mil socket, and you're going to need an 8 mil socket. So what the 8 mil and the 10 mil for are the EGR pipe. And so I'll show you what you're going to have to do here. On top, you have this cover here. You're going to take the cover off. You're going to unhook this clip. You're going to detach all your clips here. You're going to undo the furthest bracket in. So after the boot, plastic hose clamp, undo that one. You're going to pull that right off. You're going to have this foam piece here. You're going to pull that off and just place it somewhere where it's not going to knock everything else over. So now all of this piping here, this is all your EGR, and your map sensor will show you where that is. So your 10 mil bolts are here. You're going to undo those, put them somewhere that they're not going to fall. Once again, that's why you have a magnet, because sometimes they fall. I dropped a bolt while I was pulling this apart. Just 1 second here, guys. I'm going to climb up here a little bit better. Okay, now that we're up, okay, what you're going to do is then pull these bolts, and once again, be careful. You can see how small they are. They can fall and get lost very easy. This back one is the one that I dropped, and it took me 15 minutes to fish it out with a magnet. This pipe, you pull right out, and you can see it's already dirty. So this I already cleaned about 4 days ago, 5 days ago maybe. Now that you have that pipe out, you're going to want to come back here. This here, I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's see. So right here where my finger is, this is your map sensor. So this is what you're going to use that T40 Torx for. You're going to pull out this bolt here, and you're going to be very careful not to drop it. And so it's kind of tricky to undo that sensor. So what you're going to do is you're going to take out the bolt first and not unplug the sensor right away. What you're going to do is grab the whole thing, kind of twist it, pull it out, and then you can pull it forward and undo it somewhere where it's easy. So this here, you can see that you can see through it. It's all open. Well, so what happens is you got a bunch of black smoke that comes out of diesels, right? Well, that black smoke on the newer diesels doesn't come out the exhaust, so it goes somewhere else. It's redirected through the intake. Well, on these intakes, it's a plastic intake, so it fills up with this black soot, and it'll actually plug up that map sensor. So what happened to me is I was driving back from out of town, and all of a sudden in the middle of the no cell service and 30 below, I had no throttle response. My turbo went out. I thought I wrecked the turbo, but then all of a sudden my dash started telling me that service throttle control. So I was like, oh great, okay, so now either the throttle body's shot or the throttle pedal position sensor is shot. So before I did anything too crazy, you know, you could load up the parts cannon and start shooting a bunch of parts at it and see what happens. Take it to a shop, get it plugged in. Well, so figured out that it was the map sensor. First of all, I started showing up with a bunch of turbo codes, and I was like, oh good, because that's about, you know, $7 grand no matter how you look at it. By the time you put in a new turbo, program it, and hopefully not a bunch of other things as well, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to pull your EGR pipe out. You're going to clean that up. Brake clean works the best to get all that off. The map sensor, when you pull that out, it's going to be completely all plugged up. So that you should use Sensor Clean for it. If you don't have Sensor Clean, I used Brake Clean, and compressed air. If you don't have a compressor, go down and buy a can of like the compressed air to clean out like keyboards for computers. That's got enough pressure, it'll get all that stuff out of there. So that brake clean or the sensor clean, you're going to use that just to get the carbon and all that stuff off. This is extremely important to take care of, because what happens in some of the earlier ones when people don't catch it, maybe the map sensor is a little bit further away, so it won't put the truck into limp mode, which gives you a good indication that something's wrong because your truck's dead. Sometimes what will happen is it'll build up with a bunch of this soot, and your intake's all plastic. I'll show you here. All of this here that it all plugs up to, it's all plastic in there, and it fills up with that soot, and basically it's like a bunch of briquettes inside of a plastic intake on top of a very hot motor. And when your map sensor starts plugging up, it's trying to pull a bunch of air, and with a bunch of air it's also trying to pull a bunch more fuel. Eventually the diesel will soak that soot, and if you got a bunch of heat, you can do the math, you're likely to burn your motor to the ground. So this is a major EcoDiesel issue that is very, very easy to maintain. I've got 153,000 kilometers on this truck so far. Everybody told me when I went to buy the truck, don't do it. EcoDiesels, they're horrible trucks. I've had nothing but good things to say about this truck. There is a lot of maintenance that you need to do. This is one of them. Every time you do an oil change, you should do it. I did mine earlier, and then I went about 25,000 K before doing it, which was too long. All of a sudden, my truck just died on the side of the road. I had no throttle response, my dash was lighting up like a Christmas tree, couldn't do nothing. Eventually got it running and got it so that I could limp it back into town. Figured out it was just the map sensor, but once again, I thought I was buying a turbo. So do this maintenance every time you do an oil change, even if you take it to a shop. It doesn't matter if they're going to charge you a half hour to do it. This is going to save the life of your motor. Okay, have a good day, guys.